starts now.
Donald Trump revels in the power and prestige of being the president of the United States, or at least what used to be the prestige before he got there. But he never seemed too keen on doing the work of being president. His first attempt at passing major legislation failed after he realized, hey, this healthcare stuff is kind of complicated. Having to prepare for debate so that Americans actually know your platform, boring. And now, with 15 days until we start tallying up the votes and a coronavirus pandemic that's seeping into almost every facet of American life, what's abundantly clear is that Trump doesn't want to deal with the hard part of being president at all. And his latest way of dodging all that work is to wage war on science, namely Dr. Anthony Fauci.
People are tired of hearing Fauci and all these idiots, these people that have gotten it wrong. Fauci's a nice guy. He's been here for 500 years. Every time he goes on television, there's always a bomb, but there's a bigger bomb if you fire him. But Fauci's a disaster.
The White House has repeatedly blocked Fauci from just doing his job, a man who has served as an infectious disease expert for 36 years, getting us through 3 different pandemics, and who is now forced to go on his power walks with security detail because he's received death threats, because science is mean and won't let them go to the gym or bar hop or sneeze in the fruit aisle at Super Target without a mask on. Meanwhile, a totally different doctor has become more central to the nation's pandemic response. Scott Atlas, a neuroradiologist whose commentary on Fox News led Trump to recruit him, after which he clawed his way to the top of the White House coronavirus task force by telling Trump what he wanted to hear, that the pandemic was no big deal, and he and his followers could just go about their business, catch the Rona, cough it out, and it'd all be fine. Atlas is indeed a doctor, just not the kind who deals with infectious diseases. It's kind of like seeing a urologist for open heart surgery. No one is feeling better anytime soon. According to the Washington Post, Atlas has pushed the baseless idea inside the task force that the U.S. population is close to herd immunity. He also shot down attempts to expand testing and tweeted that masks don't work to stop the coronavirus. A tweet so false, Twitter removed it. As coronavirus cases surge, this is the person Trump is listening to and who he thinks you should be paying attention to. A man who is advancing fringe theories, lying to the American public, putting an entire nation at risk of sickness and death. He is the man who has Trump's ear, while Trump simultaneously mocks Joe Biden for actually listening to scientists, something Biden responded to, saying, that's not an attack, that's a badge of honor, adding, all that Donald Trump has done is cower and wallow in self-pity. Trump also claimed at a Nevada rally that if Joe Biden wins, there will be no Christmas, apparently forgetting that he will still be president during the holiday season and beyond. And if Christmas is an economically disastrous, depressing mess, it will be because of his mishandling of the virus, not because of Joe Biden. This war on science is so vile and so baffling that we can't even say Trump's party has its head in the sand, because they're out there embracing the COVID, acting as if they actively want to shoot coronavirus up their nasal passages. Because what else can describe Georgia state legislator Vernon Jones doing this? What it all boils down to is that Trump and his followers are tired of the coronavirus. They just want things to go back to pre-COVID times so that they can get their haircuts and go to restaurants and theme parks. But guess what? The pandemic isn't over just because you're tired of it. And it's certainly not over because our government doesn't want to deal with it. It's the medical experts who are using scientific data to make the case that we have to put in the work. Instead, Trump just wants to ignore it, deflect, have his mega MAGA rallies, and throw herd immunity against the wall to see if it sticks. Even though millions of people under a herd immunity strategy would die. Millions. Look at this map. Nearly 40 states are seeing surges, upticks, and increases. As of Sunday, COVID-19 hospitalizations are growing by 5% or more in 37 states. The U.S. is staring down a third wave of coronavirus cases, and more than 220,000 people in the U.S. are dead. And millions of the living are slipping into poverty. But Trump? Trump just wants to have fun. Joining me now, Dr. Kavita Patel, former Obama White House Health Policy Director, Jason Johnson, professor of journalism and politics at Morgan State University, and former Republican Congressman David Jolly. And David, I'm going to start with you because Floridians are already voting. Today was Miami-Dade Day in Florida. Lots of big counties are starting to vote. And I'm wondering, as somebody who lives in the state, as you're seeing people come out and vote, is the rush that we're seeing to the polls, at least in the state of Florida, about people so excited that Trump just wants to have fun and Trump is going to make it fun again and we can forget Corona? Or is this seniors and people who are concerned and parents and people who are terrified of coronavirus coming out to vote? Can you tell us which of those things you think is more predominant?
Well, I think what's pushing early voting is trying to do it safely, as you mentioned, the fear of COVID and what is the best way to do it. But it's also distrust in our institutions to ensure their vote is counted. And so in states like Florida and others, and my wife and I did this last week, you have the opportunity to early vote. And now we have 2 weeks to make sure that our vote was counted, the ballot was opened, and that it was registered. So I think a lot of what you're seeing is the distrust of the current system. Voters want to make sure their vote is counted. And Joy, I was talking to a very senior Florida Republican today who admitted to me that Donald Trump's attack on the integrity of mail balloting has decimated Republican strategy in the state. And they are now relying on Election Day turnout, which they have not had to do before as Republicans. They are not as pessimistic as you might think, but they know that their mail ballot strategy now has been decimated by the President of the United States. The voters you see today are those that are Democratic leaning.
Yeah, you know, I can tell you, having done a couple of elections down there, the Republicans usually were the ones who just dominated the mail-in ballot vote. And I've now seen the desperate mailers that are getting sent out saying, oh, no, wait, we didn't mean that whole thing about mail balloting being bad. You should mail-in vote. They're not doing it. Let me play Dr. Atlas himself, just because I don't think people are that familiar with him. But if you don't watch Fox News, you probably never heard of him before now. And you're thinking, why aren't they listening to Fauci or the scarf lady, Dr. Birx? Here he is actually just supporting herd immunity in the real world.
When you isolate everyone, including all the healthy people, you're prolonging the problem because you're preventing population immunity. Low-risk groups getting the infection is not a problem. In fact, it's a positive in terms of finally acquiring enough immunity in the population to stop the spread of the disease, the connectivity pathways to the high-risk people.
Dr. Kavita Patel, before I let you respond to that and tell me whether you think that he is a quack or whether he is somebody who you'd listen to, there's been an open letter from 98 infectious disease physicians, immunologists, and health policy leaders at Stanford University, where he is a fellow. He's a fellow at the Hoover Institution, the conservative institution at Stanford, who've denounced him and denounced his false comments on the virus, and that's from back in September. What do you make of this doctor and his ideas?
Joy, there's no doubt that what he's talked about is just spread misinformation, lies. I mean, calling him a quack would be generous because he is proud of actually propagating, these crazy notions. And it's not just herd immunity. It's herd immunity, as you point out. It's that masks don't work. He's even been quoted as saying that he thinks that, this whole coronavirus, it's no big deal. We've got cures. And really, Joy, when you look at the timing, and I've talked to colleagues who work inside the White House, they're all frustrated because he came in and ascended to power right when the president wanted to hear the lies that he's spewing. So it was this just unfortunate kind of ascendancy that knocked out anybody of any credibility, Surgeon General Jerome Adams, Dr. Deborah Birx, as you point out, Dr. Fauci. And now you have someone who has no qualifications in public health with so much a disproportionate amount of influence, who is also crowding out anybody else who could possibly convince the vice president or the president to do otherwise. And now you see a president mocking people. And what's the strategy as we're going into that third wave that you point out, Joy? The strategy is, well, let's just hope that like a vaccine happens soon. And whatever happens until then, too bad. Hopefully they'll make it to the hospital and get some of those, great antibodies that aren't even approved by the Food and Drug Administration.
Right. I mean, they're doing herd immunity, Jason, and they're doing it among their own fans. Right. So they're like, come to this rally and catch the COVID. crowd surf over us and breathe the COVID down your lungs. Go to the White House and get COVID. Like, they're actually trying to do herd immunity on the cheap or without announcing it. And then they're surprised when they get COVID. Here's Dr. Fauci. He was on 60 Minutes this weekend about whether he was surprised that Donald Trump got the COVID.
Were you surprised that President Trump got sick?
Absolutely not. When I saw that on TV, I said, oh, my goodness. Nothing good can come out of that.
All right, put your political scientist hat on me for me, Jason Johnson. Is there any logic in pursuing a strategy wherein you essentially kill 3, 4, 5, 6 million people? This is, to me, not. I cannot accept that this is political strategy. I think it is just dim-wittedness, or maybe Trump is just a sucker and he's just been suckered in. But if there is some strategery behind the idea of just killing off 6 million Americans, please tell me what it is.
Yeah, Joy, look, there is no strategy. And when Trump throws these sort of MAGA COVID rallies where he's breathing on people. And
I know Jason's giving thoughts. Okay.
You guys hear me?
Okay. I don't hear you, Jason, but I think everyone can hear you.
Okay. Well, basically what I was saying is
now I got you. Now I got you.
There's no there is no strategy to this. Trump throws these rallies. They breathe on people. They crowd surf. They have everything short of a buffet and a kissing booth. Catch the COVID. Kiss me, catch the COVID. It doesn't make any sense. There is no strategy to this. It's not effective. It's not going to work long term. But there's a political element to this that also can't be ignored, which is also hurting the president. We keep forgetting that on top of 17,000 people who have died of COVID, the 6-7 million people who have contracted COVID and survived, they now have a pre-existing condition. And this is a president who's been attacking the Affordable Care Act. We are facing a financial and a health care crisis because of this mismanagement. And if there is no solution anytime soon, that is why people are backing away. That's why Dr. Fauci's like, hey, I'm not surprised this guy caught it. That's why you see large numbers of seniors who are voting for Joe Biden, because Trump's lack of a plan has campaign consequences in addition to economic and healthcare consequences.
Right, and, let me actually play. This is Donald Trump talking about Fauci. This is just a little way he's talked about him. Take a listen.
He's been doing a very good job. We're very happy with Dr. Fauci.
So Anthony is a good person, very good person. I've disagreed with him.
Dr. Fauci's a nice man, but he's made a lot of mistakes.
I inherited him. He was here. He was a part of this huge piece of machinery. I didn't put anybody in charge. He was here. He's been here for 40 years.
But he's a nice guy, so I keep him around, right? We'll keep him around. He's a Democrat. Everybody knows that. He's Cuomo's friend.
I mean, David, on top of all the other political issues here, Dr. Fauci is the only person anybody trusts other than Trump people. Attacking him just seems really not very smart.
Yeah, Joy, sometimes the strongest leader is the silent leader. And what Donald Trump could have done from the beginning of the COVID outbreak was still have all the White House briefings, the task force briefings, but let the public health officials speak. And Donald Trump should have stood in the back with his mouth shut. The nation would be safer. It would be healthier. We would have greater control over this. And the truth ultimately would have been provided to the American people. I think Trump's frustration with Fauci is exactly that. It's around this baseline issue that, frankly, voters can use to inform their votes on November 3rd. The baseline issue being Donald Trump's strategy is to lie. This is the thread throughout his entire career. It is an art of the deal that people want to be lied to. They do not want the truth. That has governed Donald Trump's decisions, from release of his taxes to his real estate success, to his foreign policy, to his domestic policy. He is somebody who succeeds through lies. And when he comes up against a truth teller like Anthony Fauci, it is one impediment in the way of Donald Trump's strategy. The only question today is, why did it take so long for Donald Trump to really throw Fauci under the bus? But I think Trump's behavior today regarding Fauci speaks for itself. And I think it will push more voters to the blue side of the ticket come November 3rd.
Really quickly, Jason, and also then the doctor, and then Dr. Patel, because here's the challenge. If Donald Trump somehow manages to slink through with the Electoral College again, and he's president again, one could see him getting rid of Dr. Fauci and only going with, and then being open, because then he won't be up for re-election anymore. He'll have nothing to lose. And if he really has been taken in, right, if this is his new religion, herd immunity. They might do it. And that's the other issue, Jason.
Yeah. So, Joy, here's also the weird thing about herd immunity. What it would require, if you listen to Dr. Atlas, who sounds like somebody who's selling chemicals at 2 in the morning on QVC, if you listen to Dr. Atlas, you got to bring all the healthy people together and then supposedly isolate those people who are more susceptible to comorbidities. Does that mean every black person is going to get a check? Is that my reparation? Because black people are dying of COVID at higher rates than white folks. So does that mean all black people get separated, all seniors get separated? They don't even have a plan for how to conduct herd immunity. It only works if you keep people more likely to die in safe and isolated spaces. They're not going to do that because all they're doing is throwing COVID parties. So even herd immunity is just something being thrown at the wall. It is not actually being applied in a practical, functional way from a policy standpoint.
And, you know, Dr. Patel, what worries me is that people are doing their own versions of herd immunity. They're doing parties, small parties, graduation parties. We're coming up on Thanksgiving. We're coming up on the holidays. People are doing their own experiments with this and going into bars and getting COVID. There's no way to tell who's susceptible to it. I really do worry that Donald Trump's long-term plan, if he is reelected, is to attempt to unleash this hell broadly, officially, on the American public.
Yeah, you're right to think that way because that's exactly what's happening. And to your point, and look at what we're talking about tonight. We have this quackery of a doctor distracting us when we should be talking about how can you be safe during the holidays? Why do masks work? Talk about the science and the data. So to your point, Joy, you're absolutely right that the herd immunity is happening because of a lack of a strategy and a lack of any sort of clear messaging. And I worry about that as well.
Absolutely. And Europe is hitting their third wave as well. We're going to hit ours, and they are usually 2 weeks ahead of us. It's going to be brutal. Dr. Kavita Patel, Jason Johnson, David Jolly, thank you guys very much. I really appreciate y'all. And up next on the Readout, Trump's dangerous rhetoric. Like a proper dictator. He says that everyone who he doesn't like is a criminal, and he wants them all locked up.
Joe Biden is a criminal, and he's been a criminal for a